Hi folks, Rodney back again. Hey, I've got a new freshie, 2022 Yamaha YZ450F. It is a monster edition. When you talk about edition bikes, it really doesn't mean a lot other than the graphics. You know, it's got the black plastic with the monster graphics. It does have the gold O-ring chain. But other than that, there's really not a lot of differences between that and just a regular edition. Initial impression. So, little backstory. I had a 2019 YZ450FX. Really liked that bike. The one thing that I wasn't exactly fond of, and it was kind of situational. So, the 2019 YZ450FX has a wide ratio transmission. Excuse me. So first is lower than normal, second is a little lower than normal, and then third's even to what the 450F would be, and then of course fifth is higher. So anyway, I do mostly trail riding. I want to get into some more track riding. So that was kind of the reasons for going with the 450F. Now I know guys that race with the FX model, and the one thing that I didn't care for on the FX model, especially in the trails, is it always seems like you're in between gears, at least the riding that I do. Second, you know, coming into a tight turn, because second's a little bit lower, it was always easier. But then it seemed like a long ways between second and third. So anyway, I felt like I was kind of in between gears on the trails. I've had a 2017 CRF 450RX Honda. It had the close ratio transmission like this bike does. I also had a 2016 CRF 450R that I had set up to ride trails, and it also had the close ratio transmission. So I'm familiar with that transmission already. So I kind of wanted to go back to that. So that was the biggest reason that I did. I'm just breaking it in. I've done a couple heat cycles already and done a short ride, and then now I'm actually hitting my first trails. Initial impressions, it seems like compared to the 2019 model, it has more low-end torque. And the funny thing is, I have the exact same map that I had downloaded into the 2019 model. I have it downloaded into this, and of course you can do that with the Yamaha Power Tuner app. But anyway, seems like it has more torque on the bottom end. Power builds a little bit differently. It seems like it kind of hits hard, mellows out a little bit, and then spools up really quick. And so I kind of like that. It's just a little bit different than the way the 2019 was. But so far so good. I haven't done anything to the forks. I'm actually sending it off to M9 suspension today, and they're going to revalve it, more set up for trail, and I'll be able to do some track too. But right now I haven't touched a clicker, I haven't set the sag, I haven't done anything. I was just kind of trying to break it in, and it's stiff as hell right now. At least for this stuff out here, it wants to deflect off of everything. I maybe have a little too much air pressure in the tires as well, and like I said, I'm just trying to break it in right now. But anyway, yeah, as far as the handle, everything feels really close to the same as the 2019 model. They say that they've actually changed the torsional rigidity of the frame a little bit. I think it made it a little more flexible up through here, and then maybe a little stiffen it up down at the bottom a little bit. So it should give it a little better traction in the corners, and it should make it lean over a little easier because of the rigidity up top. But anyway, so far, really enjoying the bike. They definitely did improvements on the front brake. So my 2019 model was really spongy, and so I ended up putting a Galfer oversized rotor on it, and I put on a Galfer steel braided brake line, and you know, bled the brakes and stuff, and that helped quite a bit. But I think the brake on here is just as good as the add-ons that I put on my 2019 model. Talk about some of the things I've done to the bike so far. Obviously out here we have to have a spark arrestor in order to ride in the woods. So I went with the Yoshimura RS12. Now I had the same exhaust on a KTM 350 XCF that I had before, and really enjoyed it. It gives it a lot more, I'd say it probably mellows it out a little bit on the bottom. Gives you a great mid and then great top. But that actually is good in a way. Obviously it could be a little mellower on the bottom, and then you got all that over rev. The other thing I've done to it is I put in a twin air power flow kit. Get this open here. I'll take my gloves off. So if anybody has a Yamaha, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It comes with this filter that looks kind of like a piece of bread. And it's pretty pointless, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure why they did it that way. I'm sure it had a lot to do with the way the air intake comes in. They had to find something that they could do up top because it has the engine in reverse. But anyway, I had this twin air on my 2019 model, and so the one thing that it did do is let me back up again. The 2019 model that I put the twin air on, before I put it on, I had put the exhaust on, and like I said, it kind of mellowed out the bottom a little bit, but I lost a little responsiveness on the very bottom. When I went to the twin air, it gave that response back, and it also improved the throttle response all the way through. So it obviously allows more airflow. You take the back screen out, or the back fire screen, you take it out. This has an aluminum cage, or a billet aluminum cage rather, and it's more secure, so it holds the filter down against that cage, and it's actually a much better protection than what the old filter was. So you get no air in the intake. Obviously you can reuse the filter, but it's been great all the way around, so I really enjoy that. I haven't really done much else to the bike. I do have graphics on the way, so I'll be putting those on in a couple weeks. I did put the skid plate on. That's a GYTR skid plate, and as I mentioned, you know, it's got the Yoshimura RS12, and I did put a Fastway kickstand. It's actually a really good kickstand. Out here, obviously, it's such a pain having to lean your bike up against a tree, and then sometimes you don't have a tree to lean it up against. But like in this situation, what you do is you actually just take the foot peg off, and it mounts right in behind it. They send you bolts that are a little bit longer than the stock bolts, but it actually works really well. It tucks up out of the way, and it's just completely out of the way. It will not catch on your boot, and you can ride on the track with it too, because it is secure like that. The bikes now, my 2019 model, it was an FX model, and because it actually came with Dunlop AT81s. Never have been real fond of those tires. I guess maybe in the, you know, like slick rock and muddy type situation, you know, they have their place. Obviously there's a lot of rocks and roots out here, and so in the winter time when it's really wet, that actually was a decent tire, but in the summertime it was horrible. The carcass is so soft on it that it had a tendency to just kind of flex and roll all the time, and didn't like that at all. So I understand that I'm giving up a little bit of probably traction going with the 19-inch rear wheel instead of the 18-inch, and maybe it's going to deflect a little bit more off of the roots and stuff, but so far so good. So anyway, like I said, I'm just kind of finishing the break-in here, hitting a few trails, and then I'm going to send it off today for the suspension. So stay tuned. I'll give you more videos later. Thanks for watching.